In today's video, we're diving into the defining foreign and domestic policies of the early American Republic under President George Washington and his immediate successors. This period not only shaped the new nation's relationship with the world, but also gave rise to deep political disagreements that birthed America's first political party system. From neutrality abroad to rebellion at home, we're going to explore how early leaders navigated a fragile and untested government in a world of old empires and rising ideologies. Let's get started. In February of 1793, as revolutionary France declared war on Great Britain, Spain, and Holland, Americans found themselves in a moral and political bind. On one hand, many felt strong sympathy towards France. After all, it had aided the United States during its own revolution and had now become a republic itself. On the other hand, New England merchants preferred Britain as a trading partner and sought stronger economic ties. Despite a standing alliance with France under the Treaty of 1778, President George Washington issued the Proclamation of Neutrality on April 22, 1793. This declared that the United States would remain neutral in conflict between France and Britain, establishing a precedent that the United States should avoid involvement in European wars, a principle that guided American foreign policy for generations. That policy of neutrality was soon tested. The British began seizing American ships and impressing American sailors into the British Navy. To make matters worse, Britain still maintained military outposts on American soil, and that was in clear violation of the 1783 Treaty of Paris. To prevent war, Washington sent Chief Justice John Jay to Britain to negotiate. The resulting Jay Treaty, signed on November 29, 1794, provided American sovereignty in the Northwest, but heavily favored British interests. It failed to address impressment and forced the United States to restrict trade in valuable commodities like cotton, sugar, and molasses. The treaty sparked widespread protest and public ridicule of Jay. Despite its unpopularity, Washington submitted the treaty to the Senate, where it narrowly passed for fear of reigniting conflict with Great Britain. Ironically, Jay's treaty opened the door to a more favorable agreement with Spain. Negotiated by Thomas Pinckney in 1795, Pinckney's treaty granted the United States the right to navigate the Mississippi River and deposit goods at New Orleans. It also set the northern boundary of Florida at the 31st parallel and required Spain to restrain Native American raids from Florida into U.S. territory. These diplomatic efforts helped secure America's western and southern frontiers and further stabilize the young republic's position on the world stage. Despite legislative attempts like the Northwest Ordinance, the federal government still struggled to integrate and control its western territories. In 1794, discontent boiled over in western Pennsylvania when farmers refused to pay a new excise tax on whiskey, part of Hamilton's financial program, and began terrorizing tax collectors. Washington responded decisively. At the urging of Alexander Hamilton, he called up militias from three states and personally led an army of 15,000 to put down the Whiskey Rebellion. By the time the army reached Pittsburgh, the rebels had fled. Two men were found guilty of treason but were pardoned by Washington, affirming federal authority while also showing restraint. Meanwhile, conflict with Native American tribes remained unresolved. The land ordinances of 1784 to 1787 had set off violent border disputes, and these continued even after the Constitution was ratified. The new government was bound to respect treaties made under the Articles of Confederation, many of which were with the native nations. Yet the Constitution did not clearly define the legal standing of Native Americans. They had no direct representation in the federal government, and their land rights were not secured. This legal ambiguity would persist for centuries and foreshadow continued struggles over sovereignty and territory. From the start, political divisions emerged inside Washington's own cabinet. The president selected trusted and capable men to head each executive department. Thomas Jefferson as Secretary of State, Alexander Hamilton as Secretary of the Treasury, and Henry Knox as Secretary of War. These figures represented opposing political philosophies that would soon clash. Hamilton, as Treasury Secretary, unveiled a bold financial plan that proposed 1. The assumption of state debts by the federal government, 2. The creation of a national bank, and 3. An excise tax on distilled liquor, which would lead directly to the Whiskey Rebellion. Jefferson and James Madison vehemently opposed the bank, arguing it was unconstitutional and marked a dangerous expansion of federal power. The heart of the debate centered on strict versus loose construction of the Constitution. In the end, a compromise was reached. Hamilton's financial program was enacted in exchange for relocating the capital from New York to a 10-mile district along the Potomac River, what would become known as Washington, D.C. These ideological divisions gave rise to America's first two-party system. Hamiltonians, or Federalists, favored a strong central government, close ties with Britain, and policies that supported commerce and property owners. Jeffersonians, or Democratic Republicans, championed states' rights, individual liberties, and an agrarian vision of America, wary of centralized power. Tensions escalated further under President John Adams, elected in 1796. In response to French seizures of American ships, Adams sent a delegation to France to negotiate. Instead, they were met by 3 French agents referred to as X, Y, and Z, who demanded bribes just for the opportunity to negotiate. Outraged, Americans rallied behind Adams, and the United States entered into an undeclared naval conflict with France, known as the Quasi-War. The Federalists gained seats in the 1798 midterms, riding a wave of anti French and pro nationalist sentiment. With their increased power, Federalists passed a series of controversial laws. The Naturalization Act extended the waiting period for immigrants to become citizens from 5 to 14 years. The Alien Act allowed the president to deport foreigners deemed dangerous. And lastly, the Sedition Act criminalized criticism of the president or Congress. These measures targeted Democratic Republican opposition and immigrants, sparking a fierce debate about civil liberties and government overreach that would shape future political battles. As Washington prepared to step down after 2 terms, he issued his farewell address on September 19th, 1796. Though published in the American Daily Advertiser, it was soon read widely across the country. In it, Washington delivered 2 lasting warnings to the nation. Number 1, beware of disunity, especially from political factions that might place party loyalty above national interests. And number 2, avoid foreign entanglements, reaffirming his belief in neutrality and non involvement in European affairs. These words echoed across American history, guiding foreign policy for more than a century and framing how presidents viewed their role in balancing domestic unity with international diplomacy. From neutrality in European wars to the suppression of rebellion at home, from the formation of the first cabinet to the birth of political parties, the Washington and Adams administrations set precedents that would define the future of the United States. The tensions between unity and division, freedom and order, engagement and isolation. These early chapters in American governance laid the foundation for a nation still learning to navigate its ideals and responsibilities. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.